Before I start, I want to offer a brief orientation. What I'm about to talk through isn't advice, and it isn't a conclusion about how life works. It's simply something I've been noticing in my own experience. And if you're open to sitting with that, you're welcome to stay. If not, feel free to step away and return to it another time. Lately, I've been paying attention to the weight I carry day to day. Not as a metaphor, not as a symbol, just the actual lived sense of it. And what stood out to me is that the weight itself isn't coming from difficulty. It's not coming from struggle or resistance, or even from things going wrong. It's coming from awareness, from knowing what I want, from knowing what I'm capable of, and from being inside the time it takes for those two things to meet. That space has weight. Not because something is broken, but because patience asks something of you, especially when you feel momentum. When things are finally moving, when you're finally engaged, and when your body feels ready to go faster than the conditions around you allow. I'm not fully free right now. I'm not living the life I'm working toward. There are still constraints, obligations, still places where I have to show up in ways that aren't the destination. For a long time, I noticed a quiet resistance to that. Not a loud frustration, not despair, more like a steady internal friction. A subtle wishing that things were further along, that certain conditions were different, that I could move ahead without carrying the full cost of where I am. What I've noticed is that resisting that weight doesn't make it lighter. It just pulls my attention away from what's actually here. The shift for me didn't come from changing my circumstances. It came from changing how I related to them. I stopped treating the weight as something in my way and started seeing it as something that belonged to me. Not assigned, not imposed, just present. There's a difference between carrying something reluctantly and carrying it deliberately. When I carried it reluctantly, my energy scattered. I was everywhere except where I actually was. And when I stopped resisting it, things didn't suddenly become easy, but they did become clear. Clearer about what matters to me, about what's actually in my control, clearer about what I'm building toward, even if I'm not there yet. I still show up somewhere. I still trade time for money. I still do work that isn't the end point while moving towards something that is. I don't experience that as failure the way I used to. It feels more like structure. And structure, I've noticed, is what makes freedom possible later. There's also something else I've had to sit with. How tempting it is to want outcomes without conditions, to want independence without discipline, to want movement without friction, or relief without responsibility. I don't say that as a criticism. It's just something I've had to notice in myself. What steadied things for me was accepting that the weight I'm carrying right now fits who I am. My history, my temperament, my pace. Not because it's ideal, not because it's comfortable, but because it's real. And pretending it should be lighter or different or someone else's was just another way of not being where I actually am. When I carry it honestly, it doesn't feel like punishment. It feels formative. Not in a way that makes me feel finished or in a way that makes me feel impressive. Just more stable, more grounded. I don't feel done. I don't feel free, but I do feel oriented. I know where I'm standing. I know what I'm carrying. And I know that it's mine. And for now, that's enough.